Welcome to At Home Is Now. My guest today is Laura Patryas. Welcome to the podcast, and nice to have you here again.
Monaco, thank you so much. I'm glad we've made it work, and I'm glad I'm back for a second round of presence.
Wonderful. Yes. So I would like to start this. It's called At Home Is Now podcast, and it used to be called the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy.
It was,
So
yes.
I've changed the focus to go more into the present and to what our present at homeness is. So I'd like to ask a question that is geared to that. What is your vision of the happy present?
My vision of the happy present. So I tend to think of presence along three lines of thinking, if you like. And the third and final one is the actual presence, the one that kind of holds space for the other two. So in trauma work, Bessel van der Kolk talks about presence or lack of presence as hallmark of trauma. And in A Course in Miracles terms, we might say that that's when we really buy into the idea that we've left our source. We're in suffering of some sort. So that's lack of kind of physiological, somatic presence and kind of lack of psychological presence, when we kind of disembody and float off and we're not even present, we're not even here. So that's quite an important presence to have on some level. Because if I want to be present with you right now, I notice that I am aware of everything else that's happening for me. I appear to be in this body. It's beautiful. I feel comfortable. I feel happy. I feel relaxed. So I would probably be having quite a different feeling if I was to be dissociated or, floating above my head a little bit. So we can all agree that on some level, physiological presence, to feel myself present in my body, to inhabit this beautiful vehicle, this kind of channel of love, is already really great. And I'm happy. I'm truly, truly happy to have this body. So that's physiological presence or kind of psychological presence. But when I think of presence, the foundational substrate, if you like, the awareness itself, then I think of spiritual presence. And for me, psychological, physiological, disembodied presence happens in and as that. So, and that, now, if you can imagine, if you're hearing me say that I'm super happy to be physiologically and psychologically present, really beautiful feeling. Can you imagine how happy I am to be spiritually present? To be spiritually aware that what's really going on here is consciousness, thinking. Stuff is just, I'm not the thinker of these thoughts. These are the thoughts that I think with God, or that consciousness thinks, just as a river flows. So that spiritual presence for me is the ultimate, and it never goes. So when I fall asleep at night, Laura's body seems to temporarily lose awareness of physiological presence, right? My psychological mind goes someplace, but spiritual presence, or the awareness out of which this Laura body mind seems to come out of, just cannot leave. I'm always here. This is the kind of the big I, the only I, the kind of capital S self. it's the kind of self that Bhagavad Gita talks about, and it's also the higher self that we find in therapies like IFS, which is internal family systems. So that never leaves, and to be able to, it's the kind of happiness that actually doesn't have words. I can talk about happy presence in my body, how lovely that feels, and there's some words for it. I can talk about psychological presence and enjoying peace of mind, enjoying the thinking that I think with God. And by God here, I mean consciousness, not necessarily the bearded man up in heaven. But the spiritual presence, the happiness that seems to be coming from that is beyond any words I can give you now. It's just, it doesn't have the thinking mind, the psychological, the psyche, that faculty of what I appear to be as now does have some words for it, but it doesn't really, I don't feel that it does it justice. So when I think of happiness and the word presence, I think about it as along the body, the mind, and the spirit. And the first two are beautiful, wonderful, wonderful to have, wonderful to feel oneself present in one's own body, and to have a psyche that is just feels itself to be present, feels itself to be peaceful, and that's beautiful. But that spiritual presence, the awareness itself, it's as though what comes to me now is, if I was to say, if the wave was to realize that it is indeed the ocean, that really the essence of water that is present in the wave and present in the ocean itself, it's just one. And I don't feel that I don't feel it needs any more qualifiers. I hope that answers you, kind of a bit of a long-winded way.
Well, you're describing various ways of analyzing what it means to be joyful and happy in the present moment. And yeah, that's of course an important aspect. And now we could go into experiences you've had, or how you would go into letting us know what you mean by that through descriptions of what you are experiencing in your life. Yeah.
Yes. So it's a bit tricky, because other than what I've already mentioned, the present happiness right now wouldn't really necessarily say anything at all. Can you see what this face is doing? And I often follow what the body's doing over and above what the words are saying. Because I just notice myself effortlessly, without having to actually do anything, smile. And for me, this is always here. This is always reachable, even in moments. And it doesn't mean that I don't have moments when I'm caught up in life, right? Whatever it seems to be doing. I'm not Mary Poppins. You know, I have a child, and I get blended through the lens of IFS. I get blended with various parts. And my daughter's very good at telling me, "Mummy, are you blended with your angry part?" Yes, I am. Sorry, I'll, you know, and then I invite the undoing of that, or the taking away of that, or the unblending from it. But look, it's doing it again. So in this moment, presence wants to, happiness wants to show itself like this, with this face. I hope that gives you a bit of a flavor here.
Yeah. Let's try to go deeper with that. So this is the way it expresses itself. And you're saying through the smile, through the tone of your voice when you're speaking, and through various aspects of all of that, and through your connection with your child, for instance, or through whatever else connects you with it. What are you currently excited about or committed to, and how do you cultivate your happiness?
So let's carry on the happiness vibe. So the word cultivate is a curious one, because it assumes that happiness needs to be somehow made or cultivated or mindful. I need to go down to the coal mine and start chinking away and finding this happiness. Where is it? Show it to me. And that is true. Actually, that is true. If I accept the thought that I'm separate from source, in IFS terms, we would say if I'm blended with a part that is bothered by burdens and trauma and whatever's happened to this part of me, then I would need to cultivate some happiness. Then it makes sense to talk about cultivating happiness. So we all know the usual ones: mindfulness, yoga, meditation. I mean, it's endless trope of things you can do to cultivate happiness. But it may not be. For me, it feels that if I attempt to cultivate happiness through the facet of me that feels separate from source, then it's an endless search. I'm never going to find it, because it's a bottomless pit. It's a bottomless pit of woes and traumas, and it really is. And I can, if I really look deep inside, I can notice that there would be, or where there was, this facet of Laura's consciousness that was the endless seeker. So to me, it doesn't feel so much about cultivating happiness so much as removing the blocks to the happiness that is always here. And by the way, that happiness isn't the version that the ego has of happiness, yes? The ego's version of happiness is having enough money, I don't know, having a great body, whatever each ego wants. Living in the right country, having the right house, having the right amount of kids, and your kids getting A grades. Gosh, endless list of tasks for this ego to cultivate happiness. I will be happy when I'm size 8. I will be happy when I've got £1 million. I will be happy when, right? I never had those. My ego was it seems to be, this thing seemed to be quite basic here. Just wanted a nice meal, really, and that would make Laura happy. But as you might know, I come from communist Poland, so the program here was, I must eat food. I must get enough food. So, but that's gone. There's really nothing to cultivate here, because it already is here. It's already recognized as that. But when I talk to people, but that kind of version of happiness doesn't sell. Because people want to work hard, they want to pay lots of money for it, and then they want to see an outcome. No?
Well, I wasn't referring to cultivate as something difficult, more like how one allows oneself
Yeah.
to be in the happiness, because we are in our own way, in the sense of the ego thought system being in the way. So cultivate would be to, let's say, follow your excitement or whatever,
Mm.
things like that. So I don't know if you
Yeah.
want to speak about that, because I think that's how you got out of the ego thinking into a more happy thinking, and are moving towards the divine will's way of thinking.
Yes, yes. So actually, this is a beautiful segue into. I think I've talked to death now about the whole cultivate thing. I think I've murdered it now. Good. So, what excites me now? Well, presence. This is what's happening now is exciting to me. So in that way, each and every moment is exciting to me. And I love, one of my favorite quotes, and I don't know why it works for this body mind. For some reason, it does. One of my favorite quotes from A Course in Miracles is, of course, a healed mind doesn't plan. And I irritate my co-workers with this because I truly don't plan. Laura, what are we going to say when we do this presentation? Laura, what are we doing? I don't know till I'm there. I won't know. So what excites me is what's here and now. And that's good enough. But I'm being cheeky. There's a little roguish part here. So let me answer a bit more fully. What excites me right now is I've been invited to actually write a book looking at A Course in Miracles through the lens of internal family systems. So that's exciting. That's exciting for parts of me. When I wrote Awaken to Love, I didn't plan it. One day, I couldn't write that book now, even if I tried. That book had me sat down for a year, glued to a chair. My manager parts were not very pleased because I couldn't jog, and my manager parts love jogging. But for a year, I lost loads of muscle mass, and but every morning at 5 a.m., tappy, 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 these fingers were typing away, writing this book. Every night I'd go to bed at 10, and it went on like this, 365 days. And then at the end of that, when I finished it, when I finally, it'd come to an end, I actually opened the Word doc that had the book. I thought, oh my gosh, it's been a year. It's actually been a year that I've been writing this damn thing. And I couldn't write it now. I look through it now, and it just looks like in sort of a bit of an alien piece of work to me. And I said to myself, I'm never going to write a book ever again. That's it. And then actually, it was a beautiful day. Only last week, someone on the non-dual IFS group made a comment on a post, and they said, "Oh, this sounds very much like an IFS version of A Course in Miracles." And I kid you not, I opened it on that, within moments of that, an email came through. Would you like to write a book on IFS and A Course in Miracles? Okay. And it was funny because I didn't have to think, if it had have been, would you like to write a book about psychotherapy? Would you like to write a book about, happiness? Would you like to write a book about purpose? It just would have been a no. In fact, a week before that, I turned down writing a book about happiness, because this happiness I can't sell. And anyway, the bunch of egos that are going to be reading it, they're not going to get it, because they want X, Y, and Z, says a part of me. So I turned it down. But when this offer of A Course in Miracles through the lens of IFS came in, I thought, yes. There was just a natural yes. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. But it's exciting. And then I think it was very close, not too far away, that you'd got in contact. Says, "Oh, Laura, it's time for you to come back for this." And I thought, okay. I think it's going to have to be this union of A Course in Miracles and IFS. I have no idea whether it will be like kissing a frog, or what's it going to be like. But so I'm excited about that.
Yes, that's a marvelous answer. So you're excited about that, and that's being excited about that produces a drive in you to continue with that topic, to explore it, to go deeper with it.
Yeah, because it was a very definite no to the book on happiness. I can't write 10 steps to happiness. I can't do that. It doesn't really resonate for me. But I can write. I can really feel myself writing a book on A Course in Miracles and IFS. That feels like something I can really, because I absolutely, I don't know if you know, you probably do, I adore both in equal measure.
Yeah,
and I came across
sense.
Both actually at a very similar moment in my life. I was working, when I came across both, I was working on the wound, on a personal wound, and I was working on my father wound. And you might know, my dad died when I was 3, so it's always been this personal journey. How do I heal this wound? And I think the same week, or not too far off, I came across an IFS workshop on working with the father wound, and my friend had A Course in Miracles in his house. And guess what? He said, just open, as you randomly do, opened it on the page, and it's talking about your father. Just tears, instant tears. You always open on the right page. You always open on the well, it doesn't matter which page or message you read from A Course in Miracles, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's supposed to be holographic.
That's right. Yes, so it's just all the same message, and it keeps going round and round and around. And which one is it going to be? Word 150, 155,000. Boom. Oh, it's that word. Great. Perfect.
Yeah, so I think that's a wonderful thing. So you're excited about these two books and also practices that have enriched your life.
Yes.
And so finding a way to connect the two, which you've actually been doing all the time, and you still don't know what words to use to describe that, but you've been doing it, is actually exactly what you can speak about from your own experience, right?
Yeah. And it was weird because I think we did my first recording about a year ago, something like that.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up, but
something
it's a
like
while
that.
ago. Yeah.
And I was just doing the washing up, trying to get some food down into my body before this. I hadn't planned, but just the thought popped into the mind, and it was like, oh wow. There was a flowering, there was a noticing of the journey that Laura's had. Like, oh my gosh, wow, I can say some things about this. And even a year ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to. There wouldn't have been the same set of words.
Yeah, you don't have you have a different background now.
That's right.
To draw from.
100% completely different lens, or maybe even no lens at all. So I feel ready. I feel ready to take on. And of course, I absolutely do not want to butcher it, because it's I have a slight reverence for A Course in Miracles. It's a healthy type of reverence. The pages are so thin, just like Bible pages, but just beautiful. Do you get a feeling when you're flicking through? It's such a beautiful vibe. So I do have a reverence for this Course in Miracles, and I don't want to butcher it. I don't want to. I suppose there's a part here saying, and don't worry, part, you don't have to write it. It will just write itself. But this part, if it was to be forced to write it, it would have this worry. It would be, what if I get it wrong? What if I don't do A Course in Miracles or IFS justice? And actually, I'm more worried about not doing A Course in Miracles justice than IFS. Just because of that extra layer of reverence that I have for it. That text feels otherworldly to me. It always has, really. It's got the same vibe as all of the beautiful sacred texts, like Bhagavad Gita. We often say nothing's more sacred than anything else, and that's true. And yet, A Course in Miracles does seem to have this. It's been sat on top of it's in my bedroom permanently, and it never leaves the place where it's at. It's the only item in my bedroom that's permanently there, that I can permanently turn to. No other item, clothing, books, anything else I can think of, permanently shuffles around the room or goes missing or whatever. It's the only item, maybe because it's so big. When you have the combined volume, the big hefty one, it's not so easily lost. But
yeah, I think it's a very important subject of what do you do when you want to speak about something that's really, really important to you, and you really want to. We're not able to add, we're able to join with it, and from our own experience, right, and from our own information that we are getting, right, and our part in it. So we can't actually butcher it in that way. We could, of course, butcher it in the sense of contradicting it or trying to make something else out of it. But the funny thing is, I just somewhat recently had finished writing a book, but I never published it so far, and I started a new one. But anyways,
it
was also on A Course
for this part of you.
Yes, of course. No, just no. Anyways, the fun part about it is that it's about A Course in Miracles, and I had to accept that coming from where I'm at is the place to write from, because otherwise I couldn't have written it, right? So it's a big step in humility to say, okay, I can only speak from where I'm at now, and that's the most powerful place to come from. And so, if I don't understand A Course in Miracles, then that's where I'm coming from. I just don't understand it. I'm just writing what's fascinating about it to be at this point and what I'm thinking about it, right? Because I'm not drawn to have to interpret it better than someone else, because I can't.
Right.
So that's how I was able to write it, and how I've been able to continue make the next step to the next book that's coming, right? And also I had a long time, I was like, I want to, the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy is the title of the podcast. And I was like, do I need to change it or do I need to do something? No. Right. And then the day comes when, okay, now it's time, right? So, yeah. And then now
I
it's
think
called
there's a
At Home Is
beautiful,
Now.
yeah. I think when you are quite right, when you speak from that point of authenticity and congruency with where you're at, I think that holds more power and more sort of like an energetic signature to it than trying to punch above your weight.
Yeah.
I
And
think that has,
that's how so yeah, Jesus was telling me whenever I got uncertain about the podcast or about my speaking and saying things about A Course in Miracles or anything else, that was his advice. He said, come from where you're at. That's the most powerful teaching place you can be at. There is nothing more powerful than that.
there
And
is
so
nothing more powerful.
I can be totally unhappy and write about it and everything, and with the intention to go deeper, right? Or to explore something, and that will be the most powerful place to be speaking from or sharing from. And that's something that's really hard to accept, because it's like, oh my God, all my foibles, all my annoyances, everything, it can be used for good. And it's like, you're like, huh? I don't know.
That's right.
Why would
Gosh.
anyone care about these trivial things that annoy me or get me all upset or whatever else, right? And it's like, yeah, but that's the most powerful place to come from. Of course, you're not supposed to share things that would harm you in any way, but yeah. But how do you know what harms you or what doesn't? That's the next thing. Many things where you think it would harm you actually wouldn't be harmful if you shared it. But of course, you're not going to step over your boundaries too far, because you need to stay comfortable enough to continue and to stay excited, right?
I love that. It makes me think of the best comedy is the one where it points to truth. We often laugh the most about the stuff that the person points in us. Oh, I do that. And this is why it's so funny. What you're pointing to is the perfection and happiness from the point of view of the ego, and perfection and happiness from the point of view of presence. The ego would probably have you write something quite perfect, but it would be the Instagram version perfect.
Yeah. The danger with that is that you also can't continue writing, because you're always trying to make yourself look better than you are, or different than you are. And that's not something that you're good at.
But we need
I'm not
people.
good at pretending, right?
That's right. But we need people. We need more people in this world who are willing to take the layers off, who are willing to go bare naked and go, this is who I am. And actually, this is why I appreciate both A Course in Miracles and IFS so much, because it comes from, Jesus is very clear in A Course in Miracles, when even in the title, it's A Course in Miracle. Jesus is not so big-headed as to say it's the Course in Miracles. That's point number one, And the same with the founder of IFS, when he speaks about parts of himself, how he messed up, said the wrong thing to his wife is telling him off or whatever. Like, oh, you're so human. You're so present with what's going on now. I don't really watch much, and I don't really follow. Really, A Course in Miracles was the last teaching that I read. The teaching before that was sort of like a Kashmir Shaivism type thing. the teaching before that was, can't even think, something like Alan Watts. And then the teaching with that would have been the great sacred texts, Bhagavad Gita, Bible, the Gospel of Thomas, that kind of vibe. So, you know, we know what is authentic and what isn't. We can smell it from a mile off.
Yeah, but the thing about it is the way Jesus was putting it is, even if you're inauthentic or you feel inauthentic, that's valuable in itself as well.
That's
because
a teaching.
I need to accept that as well. Because
Yes.
otherwise I would stop writing as well. If I have to be authentic 100%, I wouldn't be it. Right? I'm not that. I'm not that either at this point.
Yes.
So I have to accept that I'm human with all my foibles, all my false interpretations of who I am, my false ideas about who other people are. And I may not be able to share things like you were speaking of the founder of IFS, right? And maybe that's not something I can share at this point, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be sharing.
That's
and
right.
That's the big point in it, because
yes.
So he was saying, come from where you're at. So where I'm at is a place where I cannot share everything. I couldn't go bare naked or anything like that. I couldn't do that at this point. But there are things I can speak about, and I'm ready to speak about, or I'm ready to speak a little bit more than I have in the past about. And
So looking forward to it.
And so that's what's so amazing. Yeah.
I can't wait to it's so I have a curious part that wants to ask you now. So you've written it. It's done. What's the hold up here?
Yeah, and that's something that I don't completely understand myself either. And so yes, I do not. I still need to digitalize most of it, a lot of it. But the next holdup is, how do you go further from there? Because I never went further from there. I've always got to that point. I had digitalized everything I had it looked at, and then that was the end for books. I have published poems and short stories and things like that in a small manner, right? But I have never got any of my books out there. So it's not like the first book I've written. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe it's the best I've written so far. So, and the next one will be also wonderfully amazing that I'm working on now. So, yeah. So it's just, the question is, yes, you're right. Why is the next step such a big thing? Well, there's all these things like, I remember I was recently with previous guest who was speaking about he couldn't write properly for his life, and still he's published, right? He couldn't write, proper grammar, proper spelling, or things like that, right? And yes, I have issues with that as well, right? And so I remember that was one thing that was holding me back a long time, because of all the shame and blame and so on that I feel about not being able to get spelling and grammar and all that, and also enough different words in there at times for it to sound wonderful and marvelous and so on. But yeah, so there is a lot of topics there. Yes. So
yes.
and so I'm very, very thankful that's the case, I guess, because that's also something that will, when I go beyond that, will have its impact, positive impact, right, on all the people's lives that will be touched by it. But like even this podcast, having gotten to the place where I have been doing this, over 5 years, right? It's like, wow, who would have thought that when I started, right? Right.
But
even here, the next thing is, how do you get this podcast out to people? That's something I'm not able to deal with, right? So it's reaching only a certain very small group of people, even though it would be worth listening to for a lot more, and I'm sure a lot more would be interested if they got to know about it, right?
Yeah, this is you know, we have these great sages and these great gurus, but really wisdom lives in these ordinary places, you know, in the farmers, in the woman that's changing nappies and wiping up vomit and everything. And it's like, you know, there are a few that do get this kind of special treatment, that, you know, that kind of and maybe this is how it is. Yeah, maybe because of all of us, because we function as one, maybe because of us, we do make this kind of platform for others. And, you know, the founder of IFS says, because often he gets a lot of criticism, you know, this sounds just like Carl Jung, or, you know, and of course, if we're really truly talking about this holographic, non-dual, fractal nature of consciousness, then of course everything else is everything else. Why on earth wouldn't it be? So, you know, Dick often says something like, I stand on the shoulders of the giants. It's recycled knowledge. So I really do hope that this beautiful podcast, that if 5 years, that's a labor of love. That's a true labor of love. And I think what I see when you share this, I see how earnest and genuine it is. You know, had you have been trying it out, let's see, I'll go out there, make a podcast, people will follow me. If it doesn't work, you drop it and move on to the next thing. But you didn't do that. You just carried on. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It warms my heart. We here in Britain, we say it warms my cockles. I don't really know what that means, but I'm sure it means something nice. So, yeah, I'm just going to plug this laptop in. So I am pleased, very, very pleased that that you're doing this, that we are doing this. Makes me think, just as I use the word we, there's this lovely quote, you might know it, by Thich Nhat Hanh. And he says, the next Buddha is not a he. The next Buddha is a we. And isn't that lovely? Yeah. It's us, consciousness, moving as one.
Yeah, and that's the power of it as well, right? Because, I mean, A Course in Miracles, I used to be always using this in every podcast episode. We're walking each other home. But I'm right now, I'm trying to focus on something else. So another aspect, of course, that's true. It still is true, right? It's just that I'm focusing on the being at home and now,
That's right.
And
yes.
So being at home is now, or at home is now, supposed to stand for how we are with God at every moment, even if we don't know how or why.
That's right.
Right. And so I'm trying to, I'm actually myself also working on coming to terms with that, because I always have these ideas of what it should look like, right? And it's always been there, or I've had experience that I think, okay, the continuation would be continuing in that way, and it's not, right? And so it's always this big thing, okay, but isn't it now, right? What is that being at home, right? What does that mean, right?
Well,
Why do all these teachings say, oh, God's presence is in the present moment, right? What does that come from? What does that mean in our daily lives, right? And so it's a big topic, and I think it's a very important one. And I think many of us are struggling with this idea. It should be looking in a certain way, or we should be feeling in a certain way. Or like I said, if you want to write a book, you should be actually in a certain state of mind, which is actually not at all what Jesus is telling me, right? So it's
yeah, it's a subtle thing that gets in the way. When you're talking to me about the difference in between walking each other home and we are home, for me what comes is this idea of immanence and transcendence. You might have come across this immanence, this kind of what Carl Jung would have called individuation, bringing the unconscious, which is the kind of really the higher self, the gold, the 90% of the shadow is gold, bringing the unconscious up to the surface, so that it's a bit like if I was to unfold the lobes, the folded bits of my brain, if I was to unfold them, that's what individuation feels like, is to really ride and explore and be playful with the content of what's going on in consciousness. That's what this immanence for me feels like, right? What's my body capable of? How can I move? How can I move with others? Can I allow the wind to kiss me? Can I be an intimate lover to the whole of the world? That's what immanence for me feels like. Transcendence for me on the y-axis feels to be this: I'm already it. I'm already it. I'm here, I'm home. So on some level, there does seem to be a walking. There does seem to be a journey to walking each other home, only on this finite, immanent plane here. That's the best I can put it, really. But in reality, we're already home. And this in what I call non-dual IFS is the both and. It's that we're neither really just the immanent, neither are we the transcendent, we're now. And right now I appear to be this body, but I never lose the knowing of myself as consciousness or presence or happiness, radiant, luminant beingness, whatever we want to call it. So that's kind of what came to me when I heard you say about walking each other home, which is such a classic. Is it A Course in Miracles? I've sort of more heard it from Ram Dass, but
it's also in A Course in Miracles. If you, I don't know who came up with it first or not, but it's certainly in A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
So anyways, yeah, this is, it's like, it's just a different facet of it, right? So now I'm exploring another facet of the whole thing, right? So it's a very, that's why it's a very, a different focus. Let's just put it that way.
And it feels like it's coming, for me, the energy I get from you is that there's like a humbleness to it. And
well, I don't know either, right? So I'm just exploring it with my guests.
It just feels beautiful. It just feels absolutely beautiful. It actually feels really heartwarming to be. It kind of feels like we're sat around a fire, toasting some marshmallows. You see, my vegan part, the part I was vegan for many years. I was one of those activist types that would be at anti-fracking sites trying to save the world. Really, who I was trying to save was me. It's like reaching into a mirror to try and solve, to alter my face. And really it's here, right? What is looking it doesn't really need saving, but on the immanent, it felt like I needed saving. But so we're sat around here with vegan or non-vegan marshmallows. It doesn't matter. And we're just having a chat. Makes me think of that. There is that lovely John Hopkins album with Ram Dass is on one of the songs. And he's just talking. He's just reciting some of his words. And it's, I think it's called Sitting Around a Fire. And all we're really doing this whole time was just sitting around a fire. And of course, the fire is just presence. You could say it's the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or it's the Agni, it's the inner fire, it's the flame of self. That's all we're doing here. It appears like we're bobbing around on this imminent plane, doing things and jumping around and breaking things and having wars and everything, but really, we're just sat around a fire. And it feels nourishing. So this feels like we're just sat around a fire. Like two old friends.
Yeah, that's certainly a good place to be at for a conversation. Yes.
It is a lovely, lovely place. So
yeah. So we're slowly coming to where we need to wrap up. So I really appreciate that you're willing to talk about Be at Home is Now. So the title of the podcast, and what that entails, and what it means to us, and what it means to you in particular, and what it means to humanity and all of creation as a whole, because we're really, really in need of that, of being at home, and just like, so it just feels like that's a need that's there for me and for everyone, hopefully, who's interested in it. The need that we can explore together and come and discover that we're already there together.
That is right. And what I love about the sort of circles, A Course in Miracles and IFS and the Advaita gang and all sort of different pockets, we're all really pointing to the same thing. And it feels like on the immanent plane, maybe if there's kind of critical mass of the awareness or the knowing ourselves that we are home, I'm hoping that there's like a tipping point at one point where it's like, wow, there's enough nodes in the oceans that are like, we're home, we are home. Did you know this is the good news? We're already home. You don't have to fight. I'm really hoping, or at least some part here is saying this. How lovely would it be if it would just be ripple out and unfold?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's all part of it, right? And like when Jesus was saying that he's sending out the Holy Spirit to everyone, his Spirit to everyone, right? It was like that idea is something that Jesus was speaking of as well, right? That the Spirit of the Holy Spirit is everyone's, right? Is sent out to everyone, or is in everyone, right? In other words.
Yes. And we somehow make it about, or the ego can make it about being good enough to receive it. We're so innocent and playful with it, really, aren't we? We just like chasing our own tail. We like the idea of going on the journey, right?
The big question is, right, on this idea that we are not good enough. Yes, that is a very big issue, that we're not we're not valuable enough, right?
Yeah.
And, in A Course in Miracles, it does say you're infinitely valuable in the mind of God, but do you experience that? Do you feel that way? No, right?
Right.
So that's the big. So, but do I have to wait until I feel that way in order to receive or to be open for the Holy Spirit? Well, that shouldn't be the case, right? Because
That's
if we have
right.
to wait until I have them there, then I wouldn't need the Holy Spirit anymore, right?
That is
Because it
right.
says when we are in heaven, the Holy Spirit is no longer an issue. The Holy Spirit is the solution for those who are experiencing themselves as if they're separate, right? It's the solution for
That
them.
is right.
But as soon as that solution isn't needed, it's not an issue anymore. So so actually,
Bridge.
when you're the most feel the most separate, you are eligible to receive the Holy Spirit. And
That is right.
that's
Yeah.
the crazy thing about it. We don't believe that that's possible, right? So
And almost every person, and this wound of separation is the original wound, and from that wound, it's like a fractal wound. We think we're separate from God, so then we are rejected from the womb. And then our mother drops us off at kindergarten and we feel separate from her. And then we have the first breakup and our heart gets broken. Separate again. And we seem to go through our life reliving like a hologram, like a fractal, this wound of separation. And actually, the number one reason I see people coming is this unworthiness. I don't feel good enough. And the unworthiness is existential. It's not even, I'm not good enough for my parents, I'm not good enough for my husband or wife, I'm not good enough for my boss. It's deeper than that. It's, I'm not good enough for God.
exactly.
I'm abandoned by God. God hates me. That's how deep this wound is. And even people who've never been brought up in any religious setting, deep down will have this existential fear that God hates me. I'm not good enough for God. God has kicked me out.
Yeah. And we're kicking ourselves out all the time because of that.
That's right.
So, but nonetheless, even in the midst of kicking yourself out, you are eligible.
That's right. And this is the good.
So that's what's so remarkable about it, and that's also the message of the Bible, as well as A Course in Miracles and many other sacred texts, and even non-sacred texts will have that in them.
Yes.
There's so many people who are saying, okay, stop looking at what you don't have and look at what you have, and be happy, right?
That is
Well,
right.
in the Bible it says, and God was happy, right? Said it is good, right? Or not happy, but he said
That's
it's good,
right. Yes.
what he created. And so if you take that literally as meaning we should also say it's good, right? Then it's like, oh, what does that mean? If I can say it's good, what I made up, even what I made up, all the illusions I made up, it's good.
And this is why, so in IFS we say there are no bad parts, right?
Yeah.
There's no bad here.
And that's what A Course in Miracles says. All can be used for good. Everything by
Everything
Holy
is
Spirit.
a teaching, right? Everything is a teaching.
So
I love this.
So even my difficulties with stopping at not getting published has its good in it, right? That
It
I will
does.
find out,
I'm really
right?
curious. I have a curious part of me that that would
so
love to hear
that will
what are
be
the good
fascinating.
intentions of this part. What are the good intentions by not going ahead? But that's for another hour.
So all that is fascinating. Yeah.
It's amazing to see you. It's amazing to sit around the campfire.
So Laura, is there anything you would like to add before we close up?
No, it has been a full course meal. It's been perfect.
Okay, then thank you so much for being here, for joining me, and for joining everyone else who's part of this. Please reach out to me if you want to be on the podcast. Please share about the podcast so that people find out about it, so that more and more people can be part of this journey and profit from it, and or not journey, wherever we call it, the journey without distance, as A Course in Miracles calls it. Anyways, blessings to you all, and till next time.